Sam Valentino, private toon detective here, and I need to explain something for you all. You've probably noticed that a couple weeks ago, Cartoon Network and Adult Swim 86 the Checkered Past block that began a couple years ago. And you've probably seen posts online blaming the corrupt Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav on this. Well, let me make this clear. It was not David Zaslav's fault that the Checkered Past was discontinued. Originally, 2 years ago, when Adult Swim was expanding its start time to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, they needed something to fill the slot. And they couldn't use anything actually aimed at adults, because kids would still be up and likely to watch television in the early evening hours. This includes Adult Swim's late night originals, and the Fox animated shows that made up their animation domination block, except for The Simpsons, especially since in 2021. Adult Swim lost the license to air Family Guy, something they had run for nearly 2 decades and helped renew interest in the show and get it uncanceled. But more on that later. And it also looked like they were going to lose the license to air Bob's Burgers, so they needed to be prepared, even if they ended up keeping Bob's Burgers, as it's currently the most popular of the Fox animation domination shows. Because some of the Fox shows Adult Swim reruns are aimed at mature audiences, and they're the highest rated shows on the block. King of the Hill had also left Adult Swim in 2018, but returned in 2021, around the time Family Guy left. So, taking advantage of Cartoon Network's own vast library of original programming spanning nearly 3 decades, along with the trend towards nostalgia, they started the Checkered Past block, showcasing reruns of 1990s and 2000s Cartoon Network originals, i.e. ones that aired under the Cartoons banner. They reran Dexter's Laboratory, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Evil Kong Carney, Cow and Chicken and I Am Weasel, Samurai Jack, Johnny Bravo, and even the What a Cartoon show for a while. Curiously, they didn't show the original Powerpuff Girls, possibly because another reboot is in the works. This time, one Craig McCracken will be involved, but compared to that icky one made nearly 9 years ago without his involvement. It was kind of surreal seeing those older Cartoon Network shows with an Adult Swim logo bug visible. But in a way, airing during that time was also a good thing, because they were more age appropriate. Well, most of the time. And people grew up with those shows when they were kids would also likely have kids of their own as well, and could introduce them to some Cartoon Network shows in their childhood. And the timing also kind of worked out, as that was at the time HBO Max started purging the Cartoon Network shows streaming there. Well, at the very end of 2024, the block was shortened to just an hour, from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This was because Family Guy had started airing on Adult Swim again, after over 3 years of being absent from that block, and so to make room, they had to push forward the Fox shows already scheduled. But eventually the block lost its purpose as part of that, and with Disney lifting the contextual restrictions on those Fox animated shows, this meant Adult Swim could now air them wherever they wanted. So Checkered Past meant the same fate as Cartoon Network's other former blocks, Acme Night and Toonami Rewind. Also, Checkered Past is all content from Cartoon Network, compared to Adult Swim having all that licensed content from Fox and Disney. Sometimes I still wonder what would have happened if The Simpsons ended up on Adult Swim. I know when Fox and News Corp were preparing to syndicate The Simpsons to cable for the first time in 2014, a bunch of cable networks and their owners jumped at the chance to rerun the longest running animated show in North America, clocking in at over 550 episodes at that time. And of course, Turner Broadcasting was one of them making a bid, still a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, so they could run the show on Adult Swim as often as they wanted, along with TBS, where Family Guy and American Dad and King of the Hill were also being rerun at the time. But of course, Fox and 20th Television realized The Simpsons was still way too precious to them compared to the Seth MacFarlane shows or King of the Hill. So they opted to play it safe by syndicating it to their own recently started FXX channel. But then, of course, Disney bought 20th Century Fox at the end of that decade, a move finalized in spring 2019, so they could get their grubby paws on The Simpsons, with the other Fox animation domination shows considered an afterthought or a side effect from the buyout. And FXX was one of the networks Disney acquired, and so currently Family Guy also airs on there, alongside The Simpsons and King of the Hill. Also, with Family Guy going back to Adult Swim, it stopped airing on the Disney-owned Freeform network, which is pretty unusual given that channel is more family-oriented. But The Simpsons still airs on Freeform because, like I said, it's considered the most precious and untouchable of the Fox animated shows, even if it's pretty much washed up nowadays. This is why most of the show streams exclusively on Disney Plus, with the most recent season being added at the same time the newest season premieres on Fox. Meanwhile, the other Fox animated shows stream on Hulu, though they're in the Mayhem window, which Disney has some stake in, and the newest Simpsons season would also stream there until the next one begins, and the previous season moves to Disney Plus. And of course, there's the King of the Hill revival that's going to premiere on Hulu very soon. But enough about the Fox animation domination shows, despite my literally being a fox. The point is, David Zaslav had nothing to do with the Checkered Past block ending. People on social media just find it easy to blame him for all the bad decisions relating to anything involving Warner Bros. Discovery. But one thing he is indeed often blamed for, and I could kind of see being plausible, is the removal of content aimed at kids and families from HBO Max. You may remember almost a year ago when the Cartoon Network website shut down, with just a redirect link to Max having a window for streaming Cartoon Network shows. But now most of them are gone. And the following month, Warner Bros. Shut down the Boomerang streaming app, again saying you could stream several shows and movies from there on Max. But again, there's not a lot left. Those high binders! But the thing is, cable TV seems to be dying out, with Cartoon Network and apparently Adult Swim on some kind of autopilot, leading to more of those rumors that Cartoon Network's dying. The decline of cable television is why Nickelodeon's Teen Nick channel did away with their own retro 90s and 2000s block, Nick Rewind, a few years ago. But as I've also said, premium streaming seems to be on a downward spiral now, too. And with the impending company split between Warner Bros. And Discovery, it's still stated Cartoon Network and Adult Swim will be going to the global network side, separate from the Warner Bros. Studios and streaming half, and including both former Warner-owned and currently Discovery-owned TV networks. If it goes according to plan, Cartoon Network and Adult Swim will now have to pay licensing fees to air all the programming Warner Bros. Studios and streaming owns, including the Cartoon Network originals that made up the Checkered Past lineup. Well, I can only hope for the best, and that a lot of good comes from this split up, provided David Zaslav doesn't make any more stupid decisions. And I also hope you stay tuned to this channel to hear what does happen next.